The day has already asked enough of you. For now, there is nowhere else you need to be, and nothing waiting for an answer. You are standing beneath the broad roof of a small harbor terminal on a rainy evening, with a ticket in your coat pocket and a warm room waiting across the bay. The terminal is built of dark cedar and pale stone. Its windows shine amber against the blue-gray rain, and the covered platform keeps the weather at a comfortable distance. Beyond the railing, the bay lies smooth beneath the rainfall. Each drop makes a brief silver mark before the surface closes again. You can let your shoulders settle as you listen. Rain taps the roof in an even pattern. Water touches the wooden pilings below with a low, hollow sound. Somewhere inside the terminal, a kettle finishes warming and clicks into silence. There are only a few minutes before the evening ferry leaves, but no one is hurrying. A painted clock hangs above the doorway, its hands moving with no special importance. The ferry is already tied at the dock, resting low and steady beside the platform. It is a modest boat, long enough for a sheltered cabin and a narrow open deck. 2 lamps glow near the entry gate. Their light rests on the wet railings and turns each bead of rain into a small amber point. You take your ticket from your pocket. The paper is thick and slightly textured, printed with the name of Cedar Island and a simple drawing of a heron standing among reeds. The ink is dark blue. On the back, someone has stamped the evening departure with a round brass-colored seal. Inside the terminal, the room is warm without being stuffy. Wooden benches line the walls, and a row of hooks holds a few damp coats. The floorboards have been polished by many quiet arrivals and departures. Near the far window, a small counter offers tea in plain white cups. You walk to the counter and choose a cup of black tea with a strip of orange peel floating near the surface. The cup warms your hands through the paper sleeve. The first sip tastes clear and familiar, with just enough citrus to brighten it. No announcement breaks the room. Instead, the dock attendant opens the glass door and places a small wooden sign beside it. The sign shows the same blue heron as your ticket. Everyone understands that boarding has begun. You finish the tea at an easy pace. There is no need to carry the cup with you. A tray waits beside the door, and you set the empty cup there before stepping onto the covered dock. The rain sounds fuller outside, though it still falls without wind. Your coat keeps you dry. The boards beneath your shoes are dark with water, and the overhead lamps cast long reflections toward the ferry. At the gate, the attendant takes your ticket and gives you a round brass token in return. It is cool and smooth, with a heron pressed into one side and a simple number on the other. The token is heavier than you expect, though small enough to rest easily in your palm. You slip it into your pocket. It makes a quiet touch against the lining, a tiny weight that confirms the next part of the journey. The attendant nods toward the ferry, and you follow the sheltered gangway aboard. The ferry moves only slightly under your step. Its deck is painted deep navy, and the handrail is polished brass. Rain gathers along the outer edge, then runs through narrow drains in clear threads. A steward stands beside the cabin door. He wears a dark sweater under a waxed canvas jacket, and his manner is calm and practiced. He checks that the gangway remains clear, then holds the door while you enter. The cabin is brighter than the dock, with amber sconces along the walls and wide windows on both sides. Rows of cushioned seats face forward. Most are empty. A narrow shelf runs beneath the windows, just wide enough for a cup, a book, or a folded pair of gloves. You choose a seat near the middle of the cabin. From here, you can see both the dock lamps and the dim outline of the island across the bay. A folded wool blanket rests on the seat beside you, charcoal gray with a thin blue stripe. You place the blanket over your knees. The wool has a little weight, enough to make the seat feel settled and complete. Your coat hangs on a brass hook beside the window, where a few drops gather along the hem and disappear into the fabric. The steward walks through the cabin, checking the latches on the windows and doors. Each latch closes with a small, rounded click. He adjusts one sconce so its light falls lower, then returns to the entry. Outside, the attendant lifts the wooden gate. The gangway draws back. A rope slides free from the nearest post and settles onto the deck in a careful coil. The ferry engine begins with a low vibration beneath the floor. It is not loud. The sound is steady and deep, more felt than heard, and it seems to join the rain rather than compete with it. The boat eases away from the dock. The terminal window drifts slowly past your own, carrying its warm reflections across the rain-dark glass. For a moment, you see the benches, the tea counter, and the little clock above the door. Then the angle changes, and the terminal becomes a single amber shape behind you. The harbor opens ahead. The ferry turns toward the sheltered channel that leads to Cedar Island. You rest one hand on the blanket and the other near the window shelf. The brass token remains in your pocket. The rain continues its patient work on the roof, and the ferry begins the slow crossing. The harbor is wider than it appeared from the terminal. Once the ferry leaves the dock lights behind, the water seems to stretch in long, dark bands beneath the rain. Low warehouses stand along the distant shore, their windows reflected in broken lines of gold. You watch them pass without needing to name each building. A stack of wooden crates rests beneath one awning. A small tugboat is tied beside a stone wall. Farther on, 3 fishing boats sit close together, their masts making thin marks against the evening sky. The ferry follows a route marked by low green lights. Each one appears ahead, grows clearer beside the window, and then slides quietly behind. Their reflections travel across the water in wavering strokes. Inside the cabin, everything remains still. A passenger near the front has opened a book, though the pages turn only now and then. Someone else rests with a hat tipped low. The steward sits on a folding chair near the door, one hand resting loosely on his knee. The engine keeps its steady note beneath you. At regular intervals, The hull meets a small ripple and answers with a muted wash along the side. The motion is slow enough that the blanket stays smooth across your lap. Rain beads on the outer window. Some drops remain where they land. Others join and travel downward, gathering smaller drops as they go. Through them, the harbor lights soften into rounded shapes. You take the brass token from your pocket and place it on the window shelf. The heron is simple, only a few pressed lines, but the shape is easy to recognize. Its long legs stand among 3 small reeds. The token catches the cabin light along its edge. When the ferry changes direction by a few degrees, the bright line shifts from one side to the other. You turn it once between your fingers, then leave it resting beside your hand. The steward rises and walks to a small cabinet at the rear of the cabin. From it, he takes a tray of lidded cups and places them on a narrow counter. There is no call to come and collect one. The cups simply wait for anyone who would like something warm. You stay by the window for another minute, watching the mainland recede. The terminal is no longer distinct. It has become part of a broad row of lights, each one quiet at this distance. When you stand, the ferry supports you with only a mild sway. The blanket remains folded over the seat. You walk down the center aisle, holding the backs of 2 seats as you pass, though you hardly need them. The cups contain hot water and a mild blend of black tea and orange peel, the same scent that filled the terminal. You choose one and secure the lid. A small basket beside the tray holds plain oat biscuits wrapped in paper. You take 1 biscuit and return to your seat. The cup fits into a brass ring on the window shelf, designed to keep it from moving. Its warmth rises gently toward your face. The biscuit breaks with a quiet snap. It is lightly sweet, with a toasted flavor that suits the tea. You eat it in small pieces while the ferry moves farther into the bay. Ahead, the sheltered channel narrows between 2 low points of land. Cedar trees grow close to the water on both sides. Their shapes are dark, but the rain gives the branches a faint silver edge. The ferry enters the channel, and the water becomes even smoother. The engine note lowers slightly. The wash along the hull changes from a broad, rushing sound to a quiet, repeating fold. A small house stands near the left bank with a lamp in 1 window. Beside it, a covered boathouse extends over the water. Both appear for only a short while before the trees gather around them again. On the right bank, reeds lean toward the channel. Their tips move under the rain, each bending and returning with the same small rhythm. The green root lights are closer here, fixed to short posts among the reeds. The cabin sconces reflect in the window now, layering warm shapes over the dark shoreline. You can look through those reflections or simply watch them float on the glass. Either view is enough. The steward checks the counter and collects an empty cup. His shoes make almost no sound on the rubber runner. He pauses near your row to adjust the wool blanket where 1 corner has slipped toward the floor. The gesture is so ordinary that it asks for no response. The blanket lies evenly again. You settle it over your knees and hold your cup with both hands. Beyond the next bend, a lamp appears high among the trees. It is not a lighthouse or a beacon for open water. It is the covered lantern on the roof of the Cedar Island landing, kept bright for the evening ferry. The island itself remains mostly hidden. You see only the rising ground behind the lamp and the dark crowns of cedar trees. A few lower lights show where the boardwalk begins. The ferry is not arriving yet. The channel curves once more before reaching the island. There is still time to sit with the warm cup and listen to the engine. You drink the last of the tea. The orange flavor has grown lighter, leaving only warmth and a clean trace of bitterness. You place the empty cup in the brass ring and let your hands rest beneath the blanket. The rain continues at the same even pace. It presses no harder against the roof and shows no sign of stopping. Its constancy makes the cabin feel more sheltered. The ferry passes beneath a simple wooden bridge that joins two parts of the island. The bridge is high enough for the cabin roof to clear by several feet. Lanterns hang beneath its railing, each protected by a small metal hood. For a few seconds, their light travels across the ceiling. One amber bar follows another, moving from the front of the cabin to the rear. Then the bridge is behind you, and the ceiling returns to its steady glow. The channel widens into a small inner harbor. Here, the water is almost flat. A line of tide rowboats rests beside a long floating dock, each covered with dark canvas. The island landing stands ahead under its broad roof. Cedar posts support the structure, and rainwater runs from the eaves in thin chains. A bell hangs near the gate, though no one reaches for it. You pick up the brass token from the shelf and slip it back into your pocket. The steward begins collecting the cups. The passenger with the book closes it around a paper marker. No one rises too early. The ferry is still moving, and the landing comes closer at its own pace. You remain seated under the wool blanket while the dock lamps grow warmer through the rain. The ferry slows before it reaches the dock. The engine settles into a lower rhythm, and the cabin seems to hover above the dark water. Outside, a dockhand waits beneath the roof with one hand resting on a cedar post. A rope arcs gently from the ferry and lands across the dock. It is drawn around a cleat, and the space between boat and landing closes by a few quiet inches. The hull touches a padded rail with a soft, wooden knock. The steward opens the cabin door. Cool air enters with the scent of rain and wet cedar. You fold the blanket once, then again, and leave it on the seat as you found it. Your coat is nearly dry when you take it from the hook. The fabric feels cool at the shoulders. You fasten only the middle buttons, enough for the short walk under the landing roof. The other passengers move toward the door without crowding. The book returns to a canvas bag. A hat is set straight. The cabin remains as orderly as it was when the crossing began. You step onto the deck and follow the covered gangway to the island. Rain drums on the roof above, while water slips between the dock boards below. The ferry rests behind you, its windows still glowing. At the gate, the dock hand holds out a shallow wooden tray. Each arriving passenger places a brass token inside. When it is your turn, you take yours from your pocket and feel its smooth weight one last time. The heron faces upward in your palm. You set the token among the others, where it makes a small, bright sound. The dock hand slides the tray beneath the counter, ready to be returned on another evening. Past the gate, the landing opens into a covered waiting area. A long bench faces the inner harbor. Shelves along one wall hold folded umbrellas, lanterns, and baskets used for carrying small parcels up the hill. Your room at the Island Inn has already been reserved. A narrow card bearing your name waits in a brass clip beside the bench. Attached to it is a room key on a flat cedar tag, warm brown and smooth around the edges. The tag is marked with the number 7. On the back, a tiny heron has been burned into the wood. It is the same shape as the bird on the ticket and token, though here the lines are darker and softer. You take the key and slip the card into your pocket. The key is longer than a modern one, with a simple brass bow and a single cut along the shaft. The cedar tag rests lightly against your fingers. A row of covered boardwalks leads from the landing toward the village. The first begins just beyond the waiting area, passing between the water and a low stone wall. Its roof is supported by cedar beams darkened by years of rain. You step onto it and hear your shoes change from the solid dock to the hollow boards. The sound is low and measured. Overhead, rain gathers on the shingles and runs into a channel along the roof. Lanterns hang from every third beam. Their glass is slightly clouded, and the light inside is warm enough to show the grain of the wood. The spaces between them remain blue with evening. On your left, the inner harbor stays close. Covered rowboats rise and settle almost too slowly to notice. On your right, ferns grow beside the stone wall, their leaves shining with rain. The boardwalk curves around the harbor. There are no intersections yet and no signs to study. The inn sits at the upper end of the same covered path, beyond a small square and a grove of cedar trees. You walk at a comfortable pace. The key tag moves once against your palm with each step. Now and then, you turn it so the smooth side rests beneath your thumb. The ferry remains visible through the open side of the boardwalk. Its steward stands near the rail while the dock hand prepares the return parcels. A covered basket, a stack of folded newspapers, and 2 small wooden boxes are placed aboard. Nothing about the work is hurried. The ferry will remain at the landing for a while before making the return crossing. Its lamps give the harbor a steady center. Farther along, the boardwalk passes a workshop with wide windows. Inside, an older worktable stands beneath a hanging lamp. Several chair frames are lined against the wall, their cedar backs curved and sanded. The workshop is closed for the evening. No tools are moving, and no unfinished task seems urgent. A folded cloth lies beside a jar of brushes, ready for another day. Across from the workshop, a narrow opening in the stone wall leads to the water. 3 steps descend to a tiny platform where a wooden bucket hangs from a hook. Rain has filled the bucket nearly to the middle. You continue beneath the roof. The air is cool, though the walk keeps you comfortable. Your coat sheds the occasional drop onto the boards, leaving marks that fade behind you. The boardwalk reaches the village square. It is not a large place. 4 buildings face a central garden, and covered paths connect each doorway. A bakery occupies one corner, its windows dark except for a low light in the back room. The warm scent of bread lingers beneath the rain. Next to it stands a post office with a blue box under the eaves. The other side of the square holds a small general store and a reading room. The reading room windows are tall, and their curtains remain open. A lamp burns beside an empty armchair. You do not need to enter any of these places tonight. They simply make the square feel lived in and well arranged. The island is quiet because evening has arrived, not because anything is missing. At the center of the garden, a shallow stone basin collects rainwater. Cedar branches hang above it. Drops fall from their tips at wider intervals than the rain, each one making a clear ring. The path to the inn begins beyond the basin. Here the covered boardwalk narrows and rises slightly. A brass rail follows the outer edge, polished where many hands have rested. You place your hand on it for a moment. The metal is cool and smooth. Beneath the roof, your footsteps and the rain move together. The village square lowers behind you. Through the branches, the ferry lights remain visible near the water. Ahead, another row of lanterns marks the path through the cedar grove. The trees stand close enough to shelter the boardwalk from the open bay. Their trunks are straight and dark with rain. Between them, the ground is covered with brown needles and broad ferns. The path bends in a long arc rather than climbing directly. This makes the rise easy. Each turn offers another glimpse of the harbor below, now smaller and more settled among the trees. Halfway through the grove, there is a bench built into the railing. Its seat is dry beneath the roof. You pause there, not from tiredness, but because the view asks for no effort. The ferry sits like a warm room on the water. The landing roof, the workshop window, and the village lanterns form a simple line around the harbor. Rain moves through all of it, joining the separate lights. You rest the cedar key tag on your knee. The number 7 is easy to read in the lantern glow. When you lift it again, the wood has taken a little warmth from your hand. The final part of the path passes between 2 old cedars. Beyond them, the inn appears. Its lower walls are stone, its upper floors are cedar, and a deep porch wraps around the front. Amber light fills the porch windows. Rain falls beyond the eaves in a silver curtain, while the space beneath remains dry and welcoming. A small brass heron is fixed above the door. You rise from the bench and continue toward it. The key rests securely in your hand. Behind you, the ferry waits at the landing, and ahead, the door of the inn stands open beneath the porch lamp. The innkeeper is waiting just inside the doorway, arranging a row of umbrellas in a stone stand. She wears a cream-colored cardigan with the sleeves folded once at the wrists. When she sees you, she smiles and steps aside so you can enter without stopping. The door closes behind you with a cushioned sound. Rain remains present on the porch roof, but the room changes around it. The entry hall holds the dry warmth of cedar walls, woven rugs, and a stove burning low behind a brass screen. You unfasten your coat. The innkeeper takes it and hangs it on a broad wooden peg near the stove, where the damp fabric can warm gradually. Beneath the hooks, a shallow tray catches the water from outdoor shoes. A pair of plain house slippers waits beside the tray. You change into them and feel the thick felt settle around your feet. Your shoes remain neatly together near the wall, sheltered until morning. The innkeeper notices the cedar tag in your hand and points toward a small desk near the stairs. A second key lies there, but yours is the one for room 7. The room is already prepared, and there is no form to complete. On the desk sits a ledger with a fountain pen resting across it. Your name is written on the final line of the page. Beside it, the arrival time has been left blank, as though the exact minute matters less than the fact that you are here. You set the key down while you sign. The pen moves smoothly over the paper. When you are finished, the innkeeper closes the ledger and places it in a drawer. The entry hall opens into a sitting room on one side and a dining room on the other. Both are lit by shaded lamps rather than ceiling lights. The walls hold framed maps of the bay, drawn in clean blue lines. In the sitting room, 2 armchairs face the stove. A low table holds a ceramic bowl filled with smooth beach stones. The windows look down through the cedar grove toward the harbor. The dining room is long and narrow, with 6 tables placed along the windows. Only one has been set for the evening. A folded napkin, a white bowl, and a small glass of water wait beneath a hanging lamp. The innkeeper leads you there. On the table rests a covered pot of soup, a round loaf of bread wrapped in linen, and a dish of butter. The meal has been kept warm for the last ferry, but it requires no ceremony. You sit near the window. Outside, the grove is dark blue between the trunks, and the boardwalk lanterns descend toward the village. From here, the ferry is partly hidden, though one cabin window shines through the branches. The innkeeper pours soup into the bowl. It is a simple vegetable broth with barley, carrots, and a few green herbs. Steam rises with the scent of cedar smoke from the nearby stove. She leaves the pot within reach and returns to the entry hall. You are not expected to make conversation. The room offers company through its light, its warmth, and the sound of rain against the windows. You break the bread rather than cut it. The crust gives way, and the inside is warm enough to soften the butter. The first spoonful of soup is mild and savory. There is enough to satisfy you without making the meal heavy. You take your time, watching the rain travel across the outer glass. Each drop catches a little lamplight before joining the lower frame. The ferry remains at the landing while parcels are exchanged. Its engine is quiet now. The boat looks as settled as any building in the village. When you finish the first bowl, you decide there is no need for another. You cover the pot again and fold the linen over the remaining bread. The simple act leaves the table orderly. The innkeeper returns with a small tray. On it are a teapot, 1 cup, a dish of orange peel, and a narrow jar of honey. She sets the tray near the stove so the tea can steep while you finish the last piece of bread. The scent matches the tea from the terminal and ferry, though here it is deeper and warmer. The familiar note makes the separate parts of the evening feel connected. Harbor, crossing, island, and inn now belong to one steady route. You pour a half cup. The tea is dark, and the strip of orange peel rests near the spout. A small spoon of honey rounds the flavor without covering it. The innkeeper carries the soup pot toward the kitchen. Through the open doorway, you glimpse a deep sink, a row of white plates, and a wooden counter polished smooth. Nothing is stacked high, and no work waits in disorder. You take the cup into the sitting room. One of the armchairs has a wool cushion at the back and a folded blanket across the arm. You sit where the stove is visible through the brass screen. The fire is low, mostly red coals with a few short flames. From time to time, a cedar log settles and gives a quiet crack. The screen keeps every spark contained. Your key rests on the table beside the bowl of beach stones. The cedar tag nearly matches them in size, though its shape is flat and rectangular. The small heron on the back darkens in the firelight. You lift one of the stones from the bowl. It is gray, smooth, and cool at first. After a moment in your palm, it warms. The stone returns to the bowl with no sound. The key remains beside it, more useful and more personal for this one night. You turn the tag number upward so it will be easy to see when you are ready to go upstairs. The innkeeper moves quietly between the dining room and kitchen. She wipes the table, folds the napkin, and lowers the hanging lamp. Each task has a clear beginning and ending. You drink the tea in the same unhurried way. The rain maintains its pattern on the porch and windows. The fire offers a second, slower rhythm beneath it. A framed map above the table shows Cedar Island as a long green shape within the bay. The inner harbor curves into its southern side. A fine blue line marks the route of the ferry from the mainland terminal. The inn stands as a small square above the village. The distance from landing to porch looks very short on paper. Walking it beneath the covered path made the island feel larger, but never complicated. A second line circles the northern shore, where a footpath follows the cliffs and cedar woods. That route belongs to another day. Tonight, the map is only a quiet picture of where you have arrived. The innkeeper comes to the sitting room and adds one small log to the stove. She places it carefully on the coals, then closes the screen. The flame catches along one edge and settles into a low amber line. She gestures toward a narrow cupboard built beside the stairs. Inside are extra blankets, hot water bottles, and small trays for carrying tea to the rooms. Room 7 is beneath the sloped roof, and the rain will be easy to hear there. You set the empty cup on the tray. The innkeeper leaves the teapot within reach in case you would like more, but you are content with what you have had. The warmth remains in your hands. The house has become quieter as the evening moves on. The bakery scent has faded from the square below. The ferry prepares to leave, and its cabin lights shift behind the trees. From the window, you see the boat ease away from the landing. It turns within the inner harbor and follows the covered bridge toward the channel. The motion is so gradual that the lights seem to drift on their own. You watch until the ferry passes behind the cedars. Its engine returns as a low sound in the distance, then blends with the rain. The mainland no longer needs your attention. The innkeeper takes the tea tray and carries it to the dining room. You pick up the room key from the table. The cedar tag is warm now, carrying the heat of the sitting room into your palm. At the foot of the stairs, a small lamp lights the first landing. The steps are broad and shallow, covered by a woven runner. You place one hand on the polished rail and begin to climb. The stair turns at a wide landing, then continues to the upper floor. With each step, the sounds from below grow softer. The stove becomes a faint warmth in the air rather than a visible fire. At the top, a short corridor follows the center of the house. The ceiling slopes near the outer wall, showing the shape of the cedar roof. 3 shaded lamps cast low pools of amber along the runner. Room 7 is at the far end, beside a narrow window overlooking the grove. The brass number on the door is worn smooth at the edges. You place the key in the lock, turn it once, and feel the latch release easily. The room beyond is simple and deep enough to feel private. A bed stands beneath the sloped ceiling, covered with a white quilt and a folded blue blanket. A window seat fills the wall facing the harbor. Beside the bed is a small table with a reading lamp. A ceramic pitcher and basin rest on a cedar washstand. The walls are paneled in wood, and the clean scent of it is warmed by the room. The rain is clearer here, close above the ceiling. It falls across the shingles in a broad, even hush. Water runs through the gutter beyond the window with a lower, smoother note. You close the door and leave the key in the lock for a moment. The house slippers make no sound on the woven rug. Your room holds the same amber and deep blue colors as the ferry cabin, though everything is more still. A tray has been left on the window seat. It holds a covered hot water bottle, a small pot of the orange tea, and 1 plain oat biscuit. The innkeeper has prepared the room without adding anything unnecessary. You lift the hot water bottle by its cloth cover. It is comfortably warm and shaped to rest near the foot of the bed. You slide it beneath the blue blanket, then smooth the blanket back into place. The quilt is cool beneath your hand. The bottle begins warming a small area below it. You leave it there while you attend to the rest of the room. The curtains are open, revealing the harbor through rain-marked glass. From this height, the village lanterns form a curved line toward the landing. The ferry has already entered the channel, and only one distant light remains between the trees. You watch until that light slips beyond the covered bridge. The harbor then belongs to the rain, the rowboats, and the steady lamps along the boardwalk. Nothing else needs to arrive tonight. You draw the curtains halfway, leaving a narrow space at the center. The cloth is thick enough to soften the view without closing it completely. A little blue light remains between the panels. The reading lamp turns on with a short pull of its chain. Its shade directs the light toward the table and bed. The rest of the room stays dim. You return to the tray and pour a small cup of tea. The pot is just large enough for one serving. Orange peel rests at the bottom, and the steam carries its familiar scent. The oat biscuit breaks into 2 even pieces. You eat one and leave the other on the saucer for a moment. The tea warms you without asking you to remain awake. The cedar key tag is still attached to the door. You remove it and place it on the bedside table, number 7 facing upward. The brass key extends beyond the edge of the wood but stays safely away from the lamp. You place the empty cup beside it when the tea is finished. The second half of the biscuit follows, light and toasted. Then the tray is complete again, with nothing scattered and nothing unfinished. The hot water bottle has warmed the lower part of the bed. You move it slightly toward the center, under the blue blanket. The warmth spreads through the quilt in a quiet patch. You fold back one corner of the quilt. The sheets beneath are smooth cotton, cool at first, then warmer where the bottle has rested. The bed is ready whenever you choose to use it. Before settling, you sit on the window seat. Its cushion is firm, covered in dark blue fabric. The rain beyond the glass turns the lanterns below into long amber threads. The route you walked is easy to follow from here. The landing roof lies near the water. The covered boardwalk curves beside the stone wall, passes the square, and rises through the grove. You do not need to walk it again in your mind. The simple line is enough. It carried you from the ferry to this room without a wrong turn or a difficult choice. Your coat remains downstairs near the stove. Your shoes are dry beneath the wooden pegs. The ticket card rests in your pocket, while the room key waits on the table. Everything you brought has a place. Everything the room offers is close at hand. The thought requires no planning. You draw the curtains a little farther, leaving only a slim vertical opening. One lantern is still visible below. Its light stays steady while rain moves across it. The reading lamp is low enough to leave the ceiling in shadow, though the room never feels dark. Amber light rests on the quilt, the cedar tag, and the edge of the window seat. You lift the hot water bottle once more and place it near the foot of the bed. The blue blanket falls over it, holding the warmth in. Your hand smooths the blanket from center to edge. The ritual is complete in small, clear steps. Tea poured and finished. Curtains drawn. Bed warmed. Key placed where it can be found. You sit on the side of the bed and let the felt slippers rest on the rug. The mattress gives slightly beneath you. Rain continues above, as even as it was at the terminal. The harbor sounds do not reach this room. The ferry engine has gone, and the water against the pilings is far below. What remains is the roof, the gutter, and the low fire carried faintly through the house. You turn the lamp down using the small wheel near its base. The amber circle narrows. The cedar walls hold the remaining light without reflection. The key tag is easy to see beside the lamp. Its burned heron stands among 3 reeds, the same simple bird that appeared on your ticket and token. Here, the image has come to rest. You slide beneath the quilt and draw the blue blanket over your legs. The warmth near your feet is already waiting. The cotton sheet lies smooth against your hands. The pillow supports your head without needing adjustment. From this position, you can see the slim opening between the curtains and the one lantern beyond it. The rain crosses the window in fine, silver lines. You reach for the lamp chain but leave it for another moment. There is no advantage in rushing the room toward darkness. The low light is quiet enough. Your breathing finds its own easy pace. The day feels farther away, not erased, simply left on the mainland side of the bay. The ferry has already carried you beyond it. The rain keeps moving over the cedar roof. The hot water bottle keeps its warmth beneath the blanket. The lantern below keeps its place beside the covered path. You pull the chain. The reading lamp goes out with a small click, and the room settles into blue-gray shadow warmed by the narrow lantern light. For a while, you remain aware of the room in simple pieces. The quilt has a little weight across your chest. The blue blanket holds warmth over your legs. The pillow stays comfortably beneath your head. Rain passes over the roof without changing pace. Some drops land close above you. Others move along the slope and join the gutter beyond the window. The one visible lantern continues to glow between the curtains. Its amber line is narrow now, softened by the rain. It does not brighten or fade. Your hands rest on the quilt. The cotton is smooth beneath your fingertips. There is no need to move them anywhere else. The room key lies on the table near the darkened lamp. The cedar tag remains number side up. Even without looking directly at it, you know where it is. Downstairs, the stove gives the house a settled warmth. Its presence reaches the upper floor through the floorboards and walls. The inn holds that warmth around the room. The harbor is beyond the grove, lower on the island. The boardwalk lamps continue along the same easy curve from village to landing. Rain falls on every covered roof. The ferry is already on its return crossing. It no longer belongs to the sounds around you. The room has become the final part of the route. Your feet rest near the warmed bottle. The heat is milder now and more evenly spread. The blanket keeps it close. The blue-gray shadow along the ceiling grows familiar. The cedar panels are only broad, quiet shapes. The edge of the window seat blends into the wall. Rain on the shingles becomes less like separate drops. It joins into one continuous layer of sound. The gutter answers underneath with its smooth, lower note. The lantern remains visible through the slim opening. Its reflection moves slightly on the wet glass, though the lamp itself does not move. The amber line bends, straightens, and bends again. Your attention can rest there without holding on. The light continues whether you watch it or not. The rain continues whether you count the drops or let them join together. The quilt rises and settles with your breathing. The movement is small. The room requires nothing more. The cedar tag stays beside the lamp. The heron on its back is hidden now, resting against the table. The number 7 faces the ceiling in the dark. The orange tea has left only a faint warmth. The taste has already faded. What remains is the comfort of having finished it. The harbor route is complete. Terminal, ferry, landing, covered path, inn, and room have fallen into place behind you. Each part is still where it belongs. Your coat warms downstairs. Your shoes wait together. The key waits within reach. Rain passes across the roof. Warmth stays beneath the blanket. Amber light rests beyond the curtains. The sounds become broader and farther apart in your awareness. Roof and gutter, rain and house. A low warmth held in cedar walls. The room grows still around you without becoming silent. It keeps its small, steady patterns. Water moves through the gutter. Rain touches the shingles. The lantern shines below. Your hands are quiet on the quilt. Your feet are warm. The pillow remains steady beneath you. The covered boardwalk lies empty beneath its roof. The lamps mark the way down through the grove. The landing rests beside the dark, sheltered water. Nothing needs to travel that path again tonight. The house remains awake in the simplest way. It holds the warmth. It holds the room. It holds the rain at the roof. The blue blanket settles along your legs. The quilt settles around your shoulders. The lantern stays where it is. The rain continues, smooth and unbroken, over the cedar shingles. It runs toward the gutter and away. It leaves the room warm, dim, and sheltered beneath the roof. And while the island rests beneath the evening rain, the small amber lamps keep shining along the covered path, asking nothing, marking nothing urgent, simply remaining until morning.